Welcome to the Once Upon an Island podcast. I'm your host, Wesley. And of course, I am joined by my traitorous co-host,
Mary.
Mary rolled her eyes at that, but Mary, I think you'd be the better traitor than me.
Yes.
I would be playing messy.
Yes.
Like a lot of the players here. And you would be silent and stealthy, and you would be much better than me.
No one would suspect me, probably.
No one would suspect you, Mary. So, Mary, here we are back in Scotland. And just a heads up for everybody, watch seasons 1 and 2 if you haven't, or watch my videos about seasons 1 and 2, because we are 100% going to be referencing seasons 1 and 2, which had Suri and Stephanie in season 1 and Parvati and Sandra in season 2. We're going to be referencing them. We will 100%, I'm sure, be spoiling both of them. So if you don't want to be spoiled on those, just watch them. What are you doing here not watching those seasons? Those are good seasons. Go watch them.
Mm-hmm.
We do rank 1 above 2, but 2 is still really good. So it wasn't like either of them are bad.
Mm-hmm.
But currently we rank 1 above 2. All right, Mary. So here we are jumping to season 3. We have 4 Survivor players. The show has doubled down on the number of Survivor players with Tony, Jeremy, Carolyn, and Boston Rob. What are your thoughts on these selections?
Well, I was excited. I mean, I always enjoy watching Boston Rob play. I think he is a good player. I love Tony, like no matter what season or whatever I see him on. I just love him as a person and as a player. I was excited to see Jeremy again because he's a quiet player, but also just like a really enjoyable person. And of course, Carolyn. I mean, I was so excited to see Carolyn playing and just her craziness that she could bring to this game. So yeah, I mean, was it a lot of big, like having Boston Rob and Tony, I felt like was almost a bit much maybe. But
then again, they had Parvati and Sandra last season. Those are 2 big names.
Yeah, 2 big names, but there was just the 2. I don't know. Like,
and they weren't really conflicting personalities either.
Right. So I was interested that they got both Tony and Boston Rob because they are such similar like players, in my opinion, as far as just their strength, their strategy, and I don't know. I know they have big differences. I'm just saying they're very similar. They could have gotten somebody else who was different.
If they needed a 4th Survivor player instead of Boston Rob, because I think you keep Tony.
Yes.
I don't think you get rid of Tony. I think you save Boston Rob for maybe season 4 and you get another smaller name. I say smaller name like Carolyn because while Carolyn did do really well in her Survivor season, she is a newer player who doesn't have as much name recognition as other people who literally won the game.
Right.
Like she's the only non-winner of the 4.
Right. So yeah, I mean, I'm enjoying it so far, and I was glad about that choices.
All right, well, we're going to go through this in chronological order for all 3 episodes, but we may, of course, reference things that happen later. Like, if we're talking about episode 1, we might reference episode 3. I mean, just keeping it real. But from here on out, after this week, it's going to be 1 episode a week like they did last season, so that will be super easy not to be accidentally jumping ahead. So, a couple of things that were noted. Of course, we realized later what happened, but when we're in the cars going to going to the castle, we only see 3 of the Survivor players. There is no Boston Rob. None. Apparently, a couple things I noted. Let me know if you have anything else while they're in the cars. Apparently, Brittany and Danielle, who were on Big Brother, I think it was like Big Brother 7 because it was an all-star season, are like talking about beef they had from like 18, 19 years ago. I'm like, has this not been squashed? Are we just doing this for the cameras? Or like, there's no way, right? It's been almost 20 years.
Yeah, I think it was one of the ones I was like, oh, who do you not want to see? And Danielle was just like, oh, I don't want to see Brittany. I'm still crying about it right now. She didn't say years later. I'm assuming this happened recently. And then you're like, no, this happened years ago.
Yeah, it had to have been. Danielle hasn't played since Big Brother 7, which was like 05, 06.
So I guess in the context of like, who's your worst enemy on reality shows, then I guess it's natural. But still at the same time, it's just like, really? You're crying about something that happened 18 years ago? Right.
Imagine if Jeremy brought up that Tony had ended his game.
Yeah.
But Jeremy wasn't sitting there acting like, oh, I haven't gotten over it, in 5 years.
Yeah.
Because Winters of War was filmed in 2019. So it has, and they filmed this 2024. So it has been 5 years.
Right.
And it's like, Danielle's are, it's been 19 years and I'm still crushed about it. It's like, okay, all right. Okay.
Right. Yeah. And
hasn't manifested itself outside of that as of yet.
Yeah, it has. A couple of times it's come. Yeah. I mean, in the very beginning, they meet up on the gravel right outside the castle, and they're oh Danielle, oh Brittany, like it was nothing personal. It hurt me just as much as it hurt you. Okay, whatever. But they clearly like never really talk in the same groups or whatever. But okay. Danielle has brought up how if the traitors get out, Brittany, then it's going to look like it's me because people are going to try to frame me. She said that a couple of times.
I see.
Openly.
Yeah, you're
and
right.
That's about it.
taking notes for this show is a lot different than Survivor. Like, I'm tuned in when we do Survivor. Like, I know what to expect. When it's this show, there's so many people who I do not know, and I don't feel like I'm introduced to properly, that I'm like, if I don't recognize you, I feel like I'm learning. So like, I've never watched a season. I mean, I know I watched Big Brother 7 at one point in my life, but like, do I remember it that well?
Yeah.
Different question.
No, it's a large cast, and it's not a lot of time. And yeah, you are expected to just know who these people are.
It does seem that way.
Yeah.
So, all right. Boston Rob is then revealed, which we were kind of expecting because he was in the promos. Like, he's all over the marketing, which is why they got him. Let's be real. That's the reason you get Boston Rob. That's why he's on Deal or No Deal Island season 1. That's why he's doing the after show, by the way, for Deal or No Deal Island season 2. Yes, if you're wondering, Deal or No Deal Island season 1 was kind of a little messy, but if you're wanting to watch it for Boston Rob, I recommend it. Like, it was actually worth it to watch it for Boston Rob because they didn't have any other Survivor players there. So he was able to just have the spotlight, which is the only way he wants to play anything or be in anything.
Yes, basically.
For better or worse. And at this point in his career, I feel like it's for worse, but here we are. He's revealed, and the show says, if you want Boston Rob in the game, which no, but if you want Boston Rob in the game, come up and shake his hand. You can exile someone else, not banish. Exile. Exile.
Alan
right.
says
I don't know if in the moment I would have realized Alan was doing a trickery of words. Maybe. But when we were watching, I'm like, oh no, he said exile. He didn't say banish.
Yeah, I think most of the gamers, I said, would have caught it right away. I don't think anyone else would have caught it. Probably. Housewives, some of the Big Brother players.
Later on called the Bambi Alliance.
The WWE star.
Yeah, I don't
whatever.
think they were just like, I'm not going to, I don't even know who this guy is. Or if I do know who he is, it's not a
bunch of them didn't even know. And they're like, no, why do we even? And Carolyn, she was like fighting herself to, I want Boston Robyn, and I could immediately get, Tony out. But why would you get Boston Robyn and get Tony out? She's like, Tony's so smart. Yeah. She didn't end up doing it, but it was an interesting way of introducing him, I guess.
To me, it felt like, here's my thought as I was making the show. The reason they did this, they knew Boston Rob wasn't getting in. Like,
probably.
Or if they did, I guess it was kind of like, if it did work out, cool.
Right.
But if it doesn't work out, okay, that's what we're worth banking on, because we want to reveal to people who tuned in for Boston Rob that he is indeed here. But also, we need to fabricate a way for Boston Rob to have immunity for 2 episodes.
Yes.
Same with, as we'll later learn, Derek and Wes from other shows, Big Brother and The Challenge. But those, I don't think, were like names that they were going to like bank on people tuning into the show for.
Right.
I never even heard of Wes before. I knew he was on Carolyn's pod, because I was on Carolyn's podcast as well, and I looked at their past episodes, some of their past episodes during Survivor 47. So I saw him there, but I was like, I don't know who Wes Bergman, I think his last name is, and I believe his wife Amanda. I don't know who that is. But then I saw him on the show. I'm like, oh, okay, that's the only reason I know him. I never seen The Challenge with him, but I knew Derek from Big Brother because he had played, in what I had heard, I'd never seen the season. He played with Cody, who was a traitor in season 1 of this show. And he played a Kim Spradlin type game where like the season was so boring because of how dominant he was in his Big Brother season. So that's all I know about these 2.
Right.
Which is nothing on Wes, though I do like Wes so far. And I know Derek played the dominant game. I don't know. We'll see how that manifests. But Boston Rob, for sure, that's what this move felt like. It was like, how do we let the audience know don't worry, he's in the show. Yeah. We just had to fabricate a way for these 3 players to have immunity for 2 episodes.
Right. Basically.
I don't know why Derek and Wes needed immunity for 2 episodes. I wonder if they were just covering up for why they needed to give Boston Rob immunity.
That's all it was.
Yeah, that's all that was. Yeah. It could have been anybody. They could have put 2 other people in starting cages. It'd have been fine.
Well, again, we don't watch those other shows as much. So yeah, I know you just explained how much you know about them, but in those circles, maybe they are like almost the equivalent of Boston Rob.
We have seen Johnny Bananas and CT, I believe, because he won last season. From the challenge. And I think those are the only 2 names I really knew from the challenge. Now we're into like who's after the top 2.
Right.
And now maybe Wes is like number 3, and I just didn't know that.
Yeah.
Because I knew who Bananas was last season. Also, I feel like this twist, Mary, of immunity for 2 episodes is a result of Bananas being eliminated first last season. He was one of their big names they're marketing the show after. Yep. He was murdered first, and he had no chance at any point to do anything.
To even play the game.
People were annoyed. If you looked on social media, people were annoyed. They're like, I was tuning in for Bananas. So he had no immunity, got murdered right away. And I feel like this is a rectification to make sure that one of their big names that they were marketing the show with
Sure.
wasn't going in the first 2 episodes. Just a thought. I don't make the show, but if somebody tells me I'm wrong, I would love to hear why. Maybe I am wrong. I could very well be wrong. But anyways, so obviously nobody shakes the hand. Nobody wants to let Boston Rob in. I told you, Mary, I'm like, if they actually want somebody to let in on this, I think you'd have to get somebody everybody like really likes.
Mm-hmm.
Like doesn't view as a threat, but really likes.
Right.
So I'm going to say something that's obviously this person would never be on the show, but let's say you pick like an Ariana Grande, who's like a huge name, right? A celebrity.
Sure.
But like, nobody's gonna be like Ariana Grande. Oh my gosh, what a threat on the Traitors. But they're gonna be like Ariana Grande, what a super popular singer. Of course I want to be friends with Ariana Grande.
Right.
Like, I'm not saying everybody would say that. I'm saying there would be somebody.
Oh yeah.
Right. And that's how you'd be able to pull off this twist if they ever want to do it again.
Right.
And actually have the hand being
I don't.
shaken.
Yeah, like you said, I don't think they really cared if anyone
No, I don't
shook
think
his
they
hand
did
or not,
either.
because they're gonna have him in the game, whether anyone did or not.
So we get into the castle and Tony's like, guys, I don't want to be a traitor. Guys, I don't want to be a traitor. I'm trying to do the Tony voice.
Mm-hmm.
Hard for me to wrap my head. We didn't get enough time with Tony for me to really get back into Tony character. He's like, guys, I don't want to be a traitor. And then you go to his confessional. He's like, oh, I definitely want to be a traitor. I want to be a traitor.
But then Carolyn says, no, you don't. That's BS. Of course you want to be a traitor. And he's like, no, Carolyn, I really do. I want to be
Carolyn,
a faithful.
why don't you believe me?
Yeah.
Mary and I just watched Kagayan like 3 months ago. So Tony's first one is fresh in our brain.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, Tony to me, a little older, a little wiser, unchanged.
Yeah.
But not in a bad way. No. He didn't really need to. Like
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Tony's reputation preceded him. If Tony was an unknown like entity,
He'd be fine.
he would be
Yeah.
fine. Right. Exactly. His reputation preceded him here. All right. So I do want to do, Mary, ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
A video game review.
Nice.
I was gifted a strategic city builder called Manor Lords created by Slavic Magic, and I'm probably butchering that name, published by Hooded Horse. It's a 14th century medieval lord game. Like it's a city builder, strategic city builder. Mary, you watched me play it. It is beautiful. Can you concur with this?
It is very beautiful.
First thing I noticed when I booted up the game, I was like, holy cow. It's like the graphics are gorgeous. And then you started it up. It's an early access game. And you start it up and it's like, this is developed by one guy. And I'm like, excuse me?
Wow.
But he's been doing it for it said 7 years, I think.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Guy named Greg for 7 years. Lots of customization with how you build your city. And also lots of customization with like how you want to play the game. Like you don't have, there's a combat part of the game that at first I was initially like, I don't want to do that. You can just turn it off. You don't have to do that. You can make the game easier. So it's like you have more resources. You can make it harder, making resources really hard to get. You like have to delegate all your villagers, but it sounds more complicated than it is. Or maybe it was just like, it was so much fun. I didn't care.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I gotta say that it was so much fun. Like there's nothing that felt tedious to the game.
Right.
If anything, I loved it. And I loved how the seasons progressed from like spring, winter. That's not how seasons go. Spring, summer, fall, winter. I just remember winter being beautiful the first time I was like, holy cow, this game looks gorgeous with snow. And it does look gorgeous other seasons. Just the snow really is what sticks in my mind. It's early access on Steam. I probably put 14 hours into it in like my first 2 weeks playing. By the time I was like, okay, time to like try the combat, because I played 14 hours before I was like, okay, time to like play it with the combat on.
Time to level up.
Yeah, time to play the full game, right? I was like, man, I wish there was like DLC. I was ready for like more. That's why I was like, time to try the combat, because there's a part of the game I hadn't played yet. I just think it's so good. It's $40 on Steam, GOG, Epic Games, and on the Microsoft Store. They say at some point it'll be on consoles, but it's not on there yet. I'm gonna guess that consoles don't really do early access, to my knowledge. It'll probably have to be a full release before they put it on any consoles. But if you have a PC, you have a Mac, I believe, then it's on there. Check it out. Highly recommend. Link in the description. And thank you again to Hooded Horse for saying it's game over.
Cool.
All right, Mary.
Yes.
We get our traitorous selections. And it feels like every season, I know last season, technically, Parvati wasn't picked to be a traitor by the show. But every season, it feels like a survivor's being picked as a traitor.
Yes. We have Danielle, who's a big brother, Bob the drag queen, and Carolyn, who's a survivor.
Right. Carolyn's our survivor pick this season. First season, it was Suri. Second season, it was Parvati. I was excited about both picks. I am actually I actually, when they picked Carolyn, I was like, this is the one that makes the most sense of the 4 if you want them to have a chance to win.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm like, you pick Tony, that to me is the
Right.
expected pick. That's
Right.
actually, if I was on the show, who I would suspect they picked.
Mm-hmm.
Jeremy, I was like, they're not picking Jeremy. Boston Rob, if Boston Rob was there from the beginning of episode 1,
He would have been.
I would have suspected him.
Yeah.
Right. If I was on the show, I would suspected Boston Rob, which is again why I think they gave him 2 episodes of immunity.
Mm-hmm.
Take a lot of heat off his back. People could accuse each other before Boston Rob even really stepped foot in the game. It's
Right.
all strategic. Let's talk about it. We have 4 traitors this season.
Right.
Never. I don't think
Nope.
we've ever had that in the first 2 seasons.
But are there more cast members this season? It feels like there are more. I could be wrong.
I think I counted 21, and you can double check me on the Traitors Wiki. 21 this season, and I believe in prior seasons it was 18 to 20.
right.
So if there's more,
Close.
maybe it's by 1. But Mary's gonna check that real quick. I think so I don't know anything about Bob the Drag Queen except that he was the reason I realized this show shifted from TV 14 to TVMA with their language, because Bob, almost every other word out of that guy's mouth is a cuss word. It was jarring. I was like, no one else made me realize it. Like, there's the occasional F word. Bob is just like a string of cursing. And it made me realize that this show has shifted. So heads up, I guess, if you haven't already watched, that the show shifted. I don't know why they shifted from, in my opinion, a more friendly format to tell my friends to go watch to okay, well, now I got to be aware of who doesn't want to listen to Bob just lay out a string of expletives every time he talks. Because that's what it felt like. And other people curse too, but it was definitely Bob made me notice that. You got the wiki pulled up, Mary?
Yeah, it's the same amount of cast, give or two, 1 or 2 between all 3 seasons.
Is it 21 in all
around
3?
20? Yes, in all 3.
Okay.
So
It just felt like more, I think, because we started with 18 and then we added.
yes, that is correct. Yeah, I agree with you. This was a show that first season or 2, I'll be like, oh yeah, I love the show. It's super family friendly. It's murder mystery.
Well, family
fun.
friendly-ish.
Close to family friendly.
It
Like,
is lying and murder.
yes, you know what I mean.
You're right.
It was something that I wouldn't mind watching with some of my nieces and nephews that are their correct age.
Older. Yeah.
Now it's like, no, absolutely not. And
Yeah.
I also wonder if that's
What a
like,
shame.
it
What
is a shame. I wonder if it's part of it is because all of these people, like especially the housewives, I don't watch these shows, but I'm assuming those are all TVMA
I feel like the moment,
and
I have no idea.
RuPaul. I don't know.
The moment they pick Bob the Drag Queen, they're like, I don't know if we can make this
Yeah.
show. Like, seriously.
We'd have to mute him half the time.
Every sentence, like it's like every third word out of his mouth was a curse word. And that's the only reason I started to notice. I mean,
Yeah.
then randomly I would notice somebody dropped a random F-bomb, but it's like literally Bob talks. To censor him would be to not understand anything he's saying. And I wonder if that was part of it. I don't know, because it's so strange that show would make itself change its rating,
Yeah.
like its censorship rating.
Mhm.
So maybe next season they go back to 14. I doubt that. I feel like
Yeah.
once you cross the barrier, you're not going back. Because they've definitely, there's a couple times where like nobody's on screen and you just hear the F word and it's like, okay, now there's this.
They're just leaning into it.
Right. They're
Yeah.
just doing it now
Yeah.
because it wasn't like they had to, like with Bob. So
Yeah.
just a bit jarring,
Mhm.
not in a good way, definitely
Right.
in a negative way, in my opinion. But anyways, Danielle, I don't know too much. What I do know about her from Big Brother is that she was on season 3 and she lost because the jury got to watch the show from home, the edited TV show where they see the confessionals, and the show realized, oh, we shouldn't do that. And and I think it caused Danielle to lose. So she could have won Big Brother 3 had the jury actually been on Ponderosa or sequestered, whatever you want to call it for Big
Mhm.
Brother. So she got robbed in a lot of people's minds. And then Big Brother 7, I don't remember much about Big Brother 7 still, even though I watched it. So she is a Big Brother, I guess, legend, but she hasn't played in like 19, 18, whatever, 20 years, however many years
Wow.
it's been.
Yeah.
And she hasn't done anything else to my knowledge. Carolyn, we know from Survivor 44, where she was a hot mess, got to the final 3, couldn't explain anything about her game and lost. Bob the Drag Queen, never even heard of him.
Right. Well, that's not quite the shows we usually watch.
Right. If it's not a strategic show, I probably haven't seen it.
I did think that
For
it was
reality.
funny that Jeremy says, if Carolyn's a traitor, we're going to find out in a minute. We're going
Right.
to be able to tell because she's so spastic or whatever. And they keep throwing little stuff like that. There'll be times where Carolyn's just like walking around crying or whatever, not
Mhm.
really, like just being herself. And people are like, oh my goodness, can you imagine Carolyn being a traitor? Oh my word.
Yeah.
And it's so funny. Like, I'm so glad she was picked.
I was on a podcast with Carolyn just like a month ago, and no indication when talking to her she was going to be a traitor. I told her no, I didn't want to be spoiled.
Right.
But like, I think a lot of us who watch Carolyn on TV, and I mean, she's underrated. She is.
Yes.
I think she's underrated for how smart she is.
Mm-hmm.
Is she emotional? Yes. Is she stupid? No.
No.
I think that's what gets thrown around. So you even hear in this episode, and I think in the other episodes as well, Carolyn's a nutbag. She's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people are underestimating her. And she even says people have always underestimated me. I think Carolyn knows why. Again, she's not stupid. She's just emotional.
Right.
Right. And actually, I think this works in her favor.
Yes. Especially on this show.
Mary and I will be doing a winner analysis. It's not the same as Survivor. Like, if there are editing hints, I have zero idea what they are. This is not a show I watch 5 days a week, you know?
Right.
So we don't have any editing hints or anything like that, but we will be doing our top 3 later on. Carolyn's definitely going to crack my top 3 because number 1, she's in a powerful position, but number 2, I don't think anybody's even said her name. And also, why would they?
Right. Exactly.
At the moment, there's just no reason. If I were there, I would also not suspect Carolyn. And I know not to underestimate her. I would still not suspect her as a traitor.
Mm-hmm.
I would definitely be thinking Tony, Boston Rob.
Right.
Like, I would. That's who I would be thinking. I don't care if Boston Rob came in 2 episodes too late.
Oh, yeah.
In my mind, I'd be like, they had 2 traitors. Boston Rob's the 3rd one.
Yes.
Because I wouldn't suspect 4. I would suspect 3.
Yeah.
Like last season when there was Dan and Phaedra, and then later on they got to pick their 3rd and they picked Parvati. So I would think Boston Rob got the same treatment in my mind.
Yes. I agree.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I don't even have my top 3 right now. No, I got to figure that out as we go. Okay.
Well, let's talk about the first challenge then.
Let's do it, Mary.
Okay.
Oh, another twist before we do that. People, apparently, only in the finale. So I'm not sure how many people that would be. They're no longer going to reveal in the finale somebody was a traitor when they get voted off.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
I thought this was interesting because it's true. In the finale, it seems in the past 2 seasons, they're voting off people just to have the pot. You know what I mean? Like, whether there's a traitor or not, but you can disguise it as, oh, we want to make sure there's not a traitor. This way, it's like, well, we don't know. There's either a traitor or there's not. I don't know. Like, it feels like it gives you a little bit more security if you're in the finale of arguing to stay, because you're not going to be able to reveal if you're a traitor or not.
My question is this the finale of the episode or just at that final fire? Because the finale of the episode last season, Sandra got voted off.
Yeah, he didn't
before
clear.
They did the final fire.
Yeah, that wasn't clear. He just said in the finale.
Right.
So
I wonder if
means.
Sandra last season would have not been revealed either way. She wasn't a traitor. She was a faithful. Played a good faithful game, all things considered. And then, so I guess what we're getting rid of is the fire, which kind of gets rid of the dramatics of, because it works.
Yeah.
It made Cerie's reveal of being a traitor so good when she won.
Yeah.
And the shocked looks of those goats that she dragged to the end, which you're never going to get again, by the way, because your goats are being eliminated here.
Yeah.
In my opinion, people who are not the gamers, quote unquote, are your potential goats to drag to the end. And they're just eliminating them willy-nilly. And it's like, guys, you could drag these people to the end.
Yes.
Just be one of them. Get to the end, fool them all, like, you know, and then win.
Right.
These are your goats, but it's like they're just like knocking out goats.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, it's great for us watching the show.
Sure.
Like, get rid of your goats, make it chaos. I'm down with that. But if you're trying to win the game like Cirie did in season 1, where it's masterful, you got to drag goats.
Right.
You have to be the only one who's not a goat. Anyways, sorry, we were talking about this. How's it going to affect things? We'll see. I don't think season 1 it affected anybody's voting, except for, I guess, I mean, that one guy got eliminated, but that was Cirie pushing for it because she knew he was a traitor and she wants to split the money with him. That's all that was.
Right.
That would not, so it would have made no effect season 1.
Right.
Would have affected last season because CT and I forget her name, Trish, I forgot the blonde lady's name.
Trishelle,
they were friends.
I think.
Trishelle, yeah. They won last season. I don't think they were just limiting people to get out traitors.
Yeah.
I'm saying to like, I forget, like, would this affected last season? I'm kind of slipped my mind.
I don't remember. I think obviously it's going to have some impact, or it should have some impact, but we'll see whether it's going to be actually a big impact or not.
Yeah, they said like it's a twist. I thought what they were going to do is all season.
Oh my gosh, that would be ridiculous.
Right, all season, not reveal either way. But I think that's like so in favor of the traitors.
Oh yeah.
Right.
And as we already know, if the traitors start going too early, they just assign in other traitors. So.
Right. And that's why when later on in this episode batch, when Wes says, I don't care if I get out Traitor, because the reality is they're just going to replace him with another Traitor. And like, sure, there's a chance it's you, but I actually think there's a lot of strategy in what Wes said when he said that. I know I'm jumping way ahead because Wes hasn't even technically entered the game at this point. Yeah, he's
not even in the game.
My point is I really like when he said that because that is a great strategy to, number one, people aren't going to care about your opinion then. But also number two, they're not going to suspect anything.
Right.
Like, sure, there is a theory like, because you're a Traitor, you don't care, but I don't feel like that's the vibe he's giving off at all. His vibe is very much like, I don't care.
Yeah.
In a way that makes people go, ignore Wes.
Mm-hmm.
Good both ways. Why murder him? Also, why vote him off? Why waste my time?
Right.
So it's a good early game. You can't do it the whole game, but all right. Yeah. Jeremy says, no way, Carolyn's a traitor. You said that. People are already accusing Chriselle. I'm sorry if I'm butchering someone's name. They're already accusing Chriselle, but nothing has come out of that in the first 3 episodes. So that may have just been nonsense talk because I haven't seen that manifest later on. Chriselle's still in the game, right?
I don't think there's anyone called Chriselle.
Yeah, there is.
Okay, sorry.
Let me tell you.
There's so many people, and I don't know.
So many people I do not recognize.
3/4 of them.
I apologize. Chriselle is definitely a player in this game, Mary.
Oh, there is. Sorry.
Thank you.
I apologize.
Are they still in the game?
Oh, yeah. The girl with the pink dress. Sorry.
There we go. All right, so let's go to the first challenge, Mary. Tell us all about it. Okay,
the first challenge is a Viking setup. So the cast has to get into a boat. They have to row it across the lock. They have to stop there's 4 platforms. 2 have fuel and 2 have money. At each platform, they're not told this though, you have to chain up 2 of the players in order to get the fuel or to get the money.
You have to eliminate 2 of your own.
Basically, yeah. So
in the challenge, yeah.
It took them forever to figure out how to row. They finally get to one. Then they figure out, oh, we have to leave people here. And the other caveat to that is whoever is back at the land with the fire and the money and sets the circle on fire gets a shield. So there's an opportunity for a bunch of people to get a shield. So of course no one wants to stay chained to the platform because then they don't get a shield. So I didn't write down who all stayed. I know Danielle and Bob stay on the third one or the second one. I apologize. So a couple people volunteer. It's a couple of housewives. Anyways,
it really is. It's women, I believe, for the first 2 rafts or whatever you want to call it, buoys, things out in the ocean.
I think they're getting tired of rowing. That's what I wrote.
They're not in the ocean.
That's what I wrote down. They were getting tired of rowing. Anyways, they didn't. The rest of the group doesn't.
I don't think you're wrong, Mary.
Doesn't end up getting the final bag of money or chest of money because they want to make sure they get back in time and they all get shields.
Can we pause? Yeah. Before we do that, but yes, that is what happens. But let's go back because Bob the drag queen, and this is gonna be the first of many instances where this occurs, is like, ugh, why are you all making the women eliminate themselves? But then Bob does not present a solution. Bob is just presenting the problem. Mm-hmm. And I think it's funny because later on in episode 3, he's going to be like, he's going to tell Efron, who's Zach's brother, Dylan, whatever. That's what I'm calling him on this podcast because how I remember him. Efron. Dylan Efron. Mm-hmm. He tells Efron, you're throwing a puzzle out there and wanting us to solve it. And then you glue it and put it to the wall so you can get the credit. Bob's doing the same thing actually all the time in these 3 episodes where he presents the problem, does not provide a solution by either A, being the solution, which by the way is just that's just a life thing. Mm-hmm. Like be the change you want to see. He's not being the change he wants to see.
Well, he did get out of the boat
eventually. Yes, but he
after
pressures
yelling
other
at
people
everyone
and
else.
yelling at other people, making them do it first. And he does this many times. So I don't know if that'll come to bite him in the butt, or maybe it's one of those things where like people are like, Bob is standing up for me, and they don't see how Bob's actually not solving anything.
Yes.
Because he does this so many times.
Yes.
And it got to the point where like episode 3, I was like, he's really going to do this every time, huh? Not just the one time, the first challenge, it's every time. Every time he views an injustice, but will not solve the injustice. So just throwing it out there because him and Danielle do end up on whatever it's called.
One of the platforms.
On a platform. There we go. And they talk and they're like, none of them suspect each other are traitors.
Right.
Which is just, of course, irony. And Alan's having a good old time with that. Yes. So yeah, you're right, Mary. They decide not to nobody else wanted to sacrifice himself for another 20K. And they come back early and we don't have a fake timer because I think they had so much time.
Yes. I think they said they had like 20 minutes left when they got back.
They had 20 minutes when they turned around at the last platform and they had figured out the rowing part. So I bet you they had at least 10 when they got back.
I'm sure they had time.
10 people got shields, I think. If I counted correctly.
It was over half the cast because I remember there were 8 people available to be murdered, but 2 of them were traitors. So there's really only 6 people available to be murdered.
Yeah, it was 10 people got shields, 2 people are already traitors. Only 6 people are eligible to be murdered. And I do not blame people for, like, if nobody else wanted to get off at that last platform.
That's
whatever.
what Tony said. They stopped for the fuel and they're like, should we go or should we just turn around? And Tony said, well, there's no point if nobody's going to volunteer right now to go to that platform. And no one was volunteering to stay at the last platform. So Tony's like, well, let's not waste time. Let's just go back.
I think there's 2 ways, and you tell me which way you think. You got this way, the path of, well, let's turn around now. There's another way where you go to that platform, Mary, and now we're here.
Yeah,
the
you
money's
have to
right
make a
there.
decision. Yeah.
And you stick to your guns, you're not getting off. Do you think that's a good decision to just still row to that last platform?
No, if no one's going to get off, then what's the point?
Right. Well, no one's getting off when we're at the wrong platform.
Sure.
But when you're actually there, you took the effort and time to get there.
You could pressure someone into doing it, I guess.
I think you could have, they could have pressured 2 other people to get off. I don't know which 2, but
Probably.
I think 2 people could have been pressured to get off that boat.
Yeah. But they didn't. So they turned around, and the point of that is, so everyone left on the platforms is super mad that they didn't try to get the last one.
To a childish extent, I want to throw out there.
To a childish extent. And I forget the name of the lady who gets really mad. I was Dorinda. I'll have to look it up.
Is she the first one gets eliminated? Dolores? I forget.
Yeah, she's the first one who gets eliminated. No, her name's Dorinda.
Okay, my bad.
She was like so mad about it and just angry at everyone and yelling and just
over the top.
We sacrificed ourselves for this. And so everyone's like, oh my goodness, this is such a big act. Obviously, she's a traitor. She must be a traitor. Danielle does it also to a lesser extent. Like, she gets mad, she goes off and eats by herself, and people come up, are you okay?
Yeah.
And no, I'm fine. Go away. Like, just pouts. And then they walk away and she smiles to the camera or whatever. And again, it's over the top, but it was hidden because of Dorinda's
There's someone bigger.
blow up. Yes.
Yeah.
And that was just because that's her personality, but they don't know that because they don't watch her show probably. Yeah. But anyway, so traitors all meet up. Bob and Danielle look at Carolyn like, you're here? Oh, wow. Okay.
Hold on. Are you up at the turret?
Sorry, yes.
No, hold on. I got stuff before we get up to the turret.
Okay.
So I wanted to throw this out there. I noticed this. There seems to be I don't know if this is correct or not, but at least here, there was like a gender split because we're back at before the 6 people or the 8 people who were on the platform was like, I can't believe they went back without us. Like, come on now, get real.
Yeah.
The show made them do that.
Yeah.
Anyways, so we're back at the castle and the women are eating dinner together and the men are eating dinner together and there's no mixing, no intermingling between the 2. I thought that was a little interesting that the social dynamic was that to begin with. Just throwing out there. I don't know if they will matter, but the fact that we started with men and women are just like eating in separate rooms. Like, I don't think I've seen that before the first 2 seasons. And Mary, you're going to me look like maybe it doesn't matter.
I didn't
maybe
even remember that happened. I don't think that
noticed
did happen.
it did. Before the 8 people from the platforms came back all mad to the castle. There was a split. Anyways.
Sure.
Danielle is acting mad, like you said, and does a look. I actually believe Danielle's mad. I do. I think she actually is upset and maybe is playing it up, maybe, but I think Danielle's actually mad.
Well, everyone was actually mad, yes. But no, she was definitely playing it up.
Okay.
Because she immediately, as soon as the Tom or whatever his name is came and asked if she needed anything and he turns around, she like immediately does this smile look at the camera like, I'm fooling them. Right.
You're saying she's mad, but she played it up extra.
Yeah.
Okay. And maybe you're right. You probably
I'm sure she was mad, but no, it was not to that extent.
I don't know too much about Danielle. Maybe I don't have a good read on that. So, all right. We end the episode with Boss and Rob will enter as the 4th traitor because they do not want you going to episode 2 without knowing that the reason some of you tuned in. Don't worry, he's in the show. He didn't actually eliminate him because he had the whole fake confessional earlier of like, oh, this is a bunch of crap that I got eliminated. But like, I've seen that confessional in some variation, by the way, 50 times over the course of all of his shows.
Yes.
I've seen this fake mad confessional from Rob before. All right, so we get episode 2. We reveal that, as we've referenced earlier, Wes and Derek from the Czar shows are going to be faithful. They're also going to join the game. I mentioned how the twist feels like a rectification for Johnny Bananas. We see up in the cages, Rob, Wes, and Derek make an alliance. Mary.
Yeah.
Do you think this is real or just talk?
No, because it immediately cuts to Wes' confessional being like, yeah, but we'll all cut each other's throats. So it's just talk.
It's not even like a temporary alliance. Nothing
It
like
could
that?
it could be something that might help them as they get along, but I don't think that they've talked maybe once or twice since they've entered the game.
Mm-hmm.
And both times it's been like, yeah, should we talk together, guys, or should we be seen together or not? And they're like, oh no, we'll just kind of do our own thing. But yeah, I got you.
If Boston Rob was a faithful, do you think this would be a stronger alliance? Because he's a traitor. He has no need.
No, Boston Rob gets a group of people that he can lead that are goats. He would not play with other strong players.
If I was him, I'd be a little ticked that they've eliminated a bunch of goats that he likely could have just dragged. I don't know. I don't foresee Boston Rob winning though.
No, I don't. Not in this game. Not in this scenario.
His name is just too big. It's like even though Tony had won twice, somehow Boston Rob's name is still the bigger one.
Yeah, I don't. Probably just because he's had more publicity, as you're saying.
Right.
He's like the face of Survivor. So
in a way, he kind of is. And he's been around since 2004. Tony didn't show up on the scene until 2014, 10 years later. But Tony entered Survivor when, not in its heyday, not in its most popular time. Boston Rob was there for 2 seasons in their most popular time, the first 8 seasons. And one of them was the infamous getting married to Amber.
Right.
You know? Amber. Getting married to Amber. Yeah. So just a bigger name. Been all over TV. So just throwing out there why. There's just no way. I can't see Boston Rob not getting voted off at some point.
Yeah.
I just cannot foresee that. He's not playing bad so far in 3 episodes.
Yeah, let's go back to the turret.
All right. Some of these 3 people. We're not even in the turret. We're past the turret.
No, they did like the reveal in the turret at the end of the episode, and then that starts with the 3 guys making their little alliance, and then we're back in the turret.
All right, we're back in the turret. Bob the Drag Queen leading the 3. Bob the Drag Queen probably sees this as the perfect 3 for him because in a way he's going to get what he wants. But Danielle is also strong-willed, and Carolyn is not a pushover. I'm not saying Carolyn's going to push her will, as we've learned so far, but Carolyn, in my mind's not a pushover. Like she's going to, or if she does get pushed over, she's going to be mad about it. This is actually a very interesting group of 3, especially knowing that Boston Rob's going to be the 4th one. Like what a wild group to have in the turret, because Carolyn and Danielle are already at odds.
Yeah.
Once you had Boston Rob in, everybody's at odds with Boston Rob.
Well, I think this is something that actually isn't going to be good for the Traitors because they can't agree and they keep doing obvious mistakes, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to get found out really quickly. If you can't work together easily, then you're going to get, I don't know. They're already cracking is what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. And they're already at odds and they're not working together. So it usually doesn't help your case.
This is not going well.
Yeah, it's not going well. So it is unfortunate. I think like Bob and Danielle both immediately wanted Dorinda out because she was so loud. And Carolyn's like, no.
That's dumb.
That's dumb. You keep her around because then she gets heat. She's like more obvious she's a traitor. Her name's already out there. Yeah. And Bob and Danielle are like, well, you just don't know. You got to think 20 steps ahead in this game. And Carolyn's like, no, you don't. This is not Big Brother. You like think about the step you're doing right now and the actions it's gonna and the consequences. And they keep talking down to her. I think that was most frustrating.
It really is. Because
like,
Carolyn's not.
You don't know what you're doing. Yes.
Right.
And they get their way. They want Dorinda gone. And it was a really stupid move, in my opinion.
Carolyn has also finished this game at the end. Like she's gotten the end of Survivor. She's not like an idiot. She didn't get to the end of Survivor by being an idiot.
Right. So I was impressed with Carolyn, how she handled it. I mean, she doesn't, like you were saying, she's not going to force her opinion and cause drama. She's like, okay, but I'm telling you, it's not a good,
but she's not going to be a submissive pushover either.
Right.
At some point, she's going to get. So if I recall correctly, first season, we had a turret of Cirie, Cody from Big Brother, and Christian, who is at the because at the time they didn't have to have all celebrities, which I actually still think that was the best way of going about this, having half celebrities, half not. But anyways, it was a pretty good turret because you had Cody, who was wanting to do things. Christian was like a puppy, like all excited about it. And then Cirie just went along with whatever they wanted to do until I think a few episodes in, and Cirie's like, okay, now it's time to start pushing my will and what I want. So it was a good dynamic. Like they work well together. Season 2, you have Dan, Phaedra, and Parvati. Phaedra loved playing up for the cameras, and she did have things she wanted to do, but she mostly let Dan do things. And same with, I think Parvati also wanted to do things, but it was mostly like, Dan's digging himself a grave. Let's let him dig himself his grave. But what they didn't know is Dan was going to throw a grenade on his way out and hurt them. So like, it worked a little bit worse than season 1, but like there was cohesion. Like for the most part, they worked together.
Right.
They were annoyed at Dan for being so quiet, but like it worked better than it worked better than the group we have now.
Right.
The group we have now, I foresee there's going to be explosions.
Yes.
Not a grenade being thrown.
Yes.
There's going to be explosions.
Yes.
I'm afraid a traitor gets revealed like Bob or Danielle or Boston Rob. I don't think Boston Rob would expose another traitor, but I do see how Bob or Danielle, heck, even I don't think Carolyn's getting exposed first though. I think she's the last of these 40 exposed.
Mm-hmm.
I could see how things go south real fast.
Right.
If something goes wrong.
We'll see. But yes, they're both Danielle and Bob are vindictive, I would say, clearly holding on grudges and get upset when their name gets thrown out. So
apparently Boston Rob is as well. Tony, when he got voted off later, was like, "You were a sellout, bro." And like, what is he referencing?
Well, we could talk about that when we get there. But I think
I'm just saying like Carolyn also can be vindictive. They're all vindictive, but right now the most open about it is
yes,
Bob and Danielle.
Because their names are being thrown out there. Well, no one's throwing out Carolyn's name. So
yeah,
I guess that's not fair to say, but I can definitely see them stabbing each other in the back, all four of them.
Mm-hmm.
So after the first murder,
which is Dorinda,
the woman overreacting the night before, Danielle at breakfast says it has to be a housewife because a housewife would kill another housewife to protect themselves. And she says it like out loud to everyone, really adamant. Yes. She also cries a lot when it's revealed that it's Dorinda. And it's like, she didn't even know her. It was way overacting. Bob and Carolyn and Dorinda cry. And Carolyn's over there like rolling her eyes at them. And I thought it was hilarious. And at that point, Jeremy says quietly to Robyn, I think it's Bob. Like, look at him crying ridiculously. And Robyn's like, oh, no, it's not Bob. Never.
There's
Bob.
a lot of like random defending of Bob the drag queen from many people, which means a lot of people know this guy because there's nothing in the show that establishes we should be trusting everything comes out of his mouth. But man, oh man, is there a lot of. So in my opinion, Bob the drag queen has a lot of social capital that he can work off of. But Danielle, as you're saying, is I think as we see it again later on, is overdoing it at breakfast.
Oh yes, constantly. And Carolyn said she felt really nervous at breakfast. Like, how do I act? What do I do? But she was the best one because she didn't do anything. She just sat there quietly. And, you know, if she was asked something, of course she said, but she wasn't overtly exerting her opinions.
I think Carolyn was actually crying when Dorinda was revealed as being murdered. Like tears. Am I misremembering?
I remember I clearly have notes that Bob and DQ were crying and then Danielle started crying.
Yeah.
And Carolyn just rolls her eyes at them. She might have had like nervous tears. Like I think she's a nervous crier and she might have like teared up at breakfast with all the stress going on. Mm-hmm. And she might have teared up when Dorinda went home because she said she felt really bad because it shouldn't have been Dorinda. But at the same time, it was like she was not over there sobbing and using a napkin.
Sorry, I have Carolyn crying later. We'll get to that.
Okay.
I was like, remember her crying. This is what happens when they do 3 episodes at once. Yeah. I get mixed up on what happened with each episode. All right. So I do think that Carolyn chastising the other 2 traitors was funny in her confessionals.
Yes.
Like that was probably the best part of the whole threesome before we get Rob in there. As you said, Danielle's passionately pushing the housewife as a traitor. And now we have, I'm just going to call them money shield challenges because there's money, there's shields. Though I really think, Mary, we haven't changed this since last season. We should get rid of the money part.
Not yet. We have the round table first.
No, we don't. We have a money shield challenge before we have the round table, Mary.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I apologize.
You ready to do the money shield challenge?
Let's go for it.
I think we talked about this last season. I think the money shouldn't be a factor. All these people here are well off. Mm-hmm. They're all reality stars, whatever you want to call it. They have money. So I feel like these challenges should just be for shields. The money should just be a guaranteed $250 at the end of the game.
Yeah, and we've talked about that, and I agree. Like, it adds some...
The money isn't motivating.
Intensity, but yeah, it really isn't that motivating to most people.
Right.
Unless you bring back regular common people and not celebrities.
Right. Yeah. But in this case, I think it shouldn't be about the money. It should be about the shields because shields are what people care about. Money should just be a guaranteed $250 at the end of this game. So, yeah. All right. We have the 3 guys in their cages, Mary. Go ahead.
Right. So Wes, Derek, and Rob are up in cages. And in order to release them, they have to fill these jars with coins. And when they are released, Wes, Derek, and Rob are allowed to give one player their shield. So everyone's like sucking up to Rob at first because they want to play with him and they want him to give them a shield.
He's the most well-known.
Like, if you know Rob at all, you know he doesn't care about sucking up at all. So he gets a bunch of coins first.
Actually, I would argue after Deal or No Deal Island, which just happened, and they would have all seen it, I believe. This was filmed in May. I don't know when Deal or No Deal Island aired. I think it was early last year. Rob actually, in that season, went with who sucked up to him the most.
Okay, so stroking your ego is different than like just sucking up, in my opinion. So yes, you have to stroke Rob's ego.
Legit stroking.
Yes, but not just like, stroking. Oh, hi Rob, I just love you and here's some money. No, he's not. He doesn't care about that. And they get the money it's all tied up in the trees and bags, and you have to untie a bunch of knots. And I think you were only allowed to bring one coin back at a time or something like that. That's what it looked like. So that was that challenge. So yes, Rob gets down first, I think, but all three of them get released within the time limit.
So this challenge, I kind of like, Mary, with how they get to choose who they're giving the shields to, and it had to be private. But in reality, with one of them being a traitor, it was inevitable that it wasn't. I mean, sure, it's private, I guess, but the traitors knew who had the shields.
Well, they would have known who one person had, because Rob was the traitor and he had a shield. Yeah. But the other two didn't have to reveal who they gave shields to. But they did. So that was their social move, I guess. Not that
I think that any of them were going to try to stab Tony, Jeremy, or who's the third person who had a shield?
Goodness. I should have written that down.
I think I wrote it down somewhere.
Was it Dylan?
It Dylan? Why did I not write this down? You know why? Because I already knew it was a non-issue when...
Yes, it was Dylan. Derek, I wrote it down. Sorry. It's just later on my notes. So Derek gave his to Efron because he felt like he was being allowed faithful. Right. He's constantly talking and accusing people. Okay.
So it was 2 survivors and Dylan. And so in reality, all 4 survivors were safe for this murder because 2 of them are traitors anyways.
Crazy.
Also, I got to point out that they brought back the challenge only has 5 seconds left. 5, 4.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
3. Counting in a way where it sounds like the very last second we get the last person down. But let's be real. Why did they keep doing this? It doesn't make it more tense for me. It takes me out of it.
Yeah.
At least in the first challenge when they had so much time left, they didn't pretend it was like 5 seconds left. Stop doing this, the traitors. You're better than this, I think.
I think it's because they're celebrities. And if they don't get the challenge, it's like they'll pout about it. Except then they made it like an almost impossible challenge later, but we'll talk about that.
I guess what I'm trying to say, yeah, they did. What I'm trying to say is I feel like the timer's fake.
Yes.
And even if they actually had 5 minutes left, that's what I mean. Like whether it's 5 minutes before or 5 minutes after, how is it always getting done in the last 10 seconds?
They're always trying to make it intense. Yeah.
Come on.
Whatever.
One of those parts I'm like, come on, be real. All right. So we get back to the castle. Shields are handed out. We learn that Wes, Derek, and Rob cannot be voted out at this round table, which makes sense. Also cannot be banished.
Just a quick note. The shields weren't handed out till after the round table in case you gave it to somebody who's banished.
Maybe that's why I didn't see where they were in my notes. Okay. Well, I'm saying this one was explained, I think, or maybe it's when I found out about it. Cannot be voted off, cannot be banished. I'm okay with it not being voted off. Cannot be killed though. Not that I think
can't
Derek
be killed, can't be banished. Yeah, I mean they just got in the game. It seems a little unfair. I get it. Also, they haven't done anything. Nobody knows, quote unquote, knows them yet. If it was 3 random people, I'd say that's fair. Since it's 3 celebrities, sure, but.
This is just giving them immunity for 2 episodes.
Just giving them immunity for another night.
That's all this really is. Danielle wants to kill Rob right away, but this is before she knows.
Right.
This is before she knows. And this is also why they did it.
Right.
Because they knew Boston Rob was going to be target number 1. It's also why they handed him being a traitor.
Mm-hmm.
They had to. They had to.
Yep. So at the round table, Bob opens up the discussion, Bob Drag Queen, by accusing Wells. And I forget his reason. Mainly, you're acting suspicious and whatever. And because Robyn said, yeah, I agree, because after the murder, you said that was a dumb murder. And I said, no, that was a smart murder, actually. And then you walked out of the room.
I do think it's interesting that Bob, the drag queen, is the one that starts the round table. Usually as a traitor, you think, keep your mouth shut. Let somebody else accuse somebody.
He doesn't know how to do that.
Mary. But Bob Harper does defend Wells. Wells tries to kick this back to Robyn and Sam, and I'm just like, nobody's on the right page.
Yeah.
This round table is nobody's on the right page.
Well, it's clearly like, yes, Bob Drag Queen started it. It just goes into chaos. And then by the end, I don't think Bob even voted for Wells. He might have. I think he brought up Lord Ivar. He brought up Lord Ivar, and then he voted for Ivar.
A proper royal.
Right.
Second cousin of the king.
Right. But Wells was banished still. Carolyn voted for Wells. And then afterwards, Efron says, I think it's actually Bob Drag Queen because he opened the round table.
Right.
And because I think he had another couple reasons. But anyways, so yeah, he's on the right track. Efron is like a hound dog, and he's on the right track. That's when the shields are given out. That's why Derek gave his to Efron, because he'd been so vocal about it being Bob.
Yeah. And that's actually a good thing, because Bob might have, the way this traitorous group is, Bob might have wanted to murder Wells. That's how, like, I'm sorry, murder, because Wells gets eliminated, gets voted off.
Yes.
That's why he definitely would have gone after Efron. And we end episode 3. I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit. We don't know who the 3 are going to be in the casket, but I bet you Efron's one of them. I would be
probably because of his
wasn't.
faithful. Yeah.
I'd be surprised if he wasn't. Anyways, so yes, Efron's, the thing we have going here between Efron and Bob the Drag Queen is Bob the Drag Queen not only is a traitor, but has a lot of social capital to burn to convince people to do his bidding. Efron has nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So he can be right. But in this game, you need some social capital. He does not have it.
Right.
He's going to have to build some up the hard way by getting people to see that he's correct and why he's correct. Even though he's correct, nobody knows.
Right. Which is unfortunate.
Yeah. So there was other things at the round table. We kind of skipped ahead, Mary. I want to mention, because I think that this is, again, we're talking about Danielle being a bit too much. She pushes the housewife as a traitor theory. She's pushing for things that she knows is not true.
Yes.
And you shouldn't really be pushing anything that is going to be proven wrong. If you're going to push for something, let it be proven wrong, but let it be something that you know is not going to be proven for a while. Mm-hmm. The housewife thing could be proven right now.
Right.
Right? Let's say they voted off a housewife and she was wrong right then and there.
Right. Well, and they killed one housewife.
Right.
And then there's only 3 left. So then if you banish one and they say, no, I'm not, only leaves 2. Yeah, you don't have much time to prove, oh yeah, it really is this person, I guess. But yeah, Danielle's being way too vocal.
There's no Phaedra in this housewife group.
Right. Yeah. Nobody to be calm and reasonable. My only other note from the round table, sorry I skipped ahead, but was that Carolyn is the one trying to calm people down. And like when Carolyn's trying to calm people down, that's when you know it's ridiculous. Like it was just like, well, how is Carolyn being the reasonable one here?
Yeah.
So,
well, that's what I mean. Carolyn's smart. She's just, emotional.
Yes.
8 different people were voted for at this round table. 8. I counted. Maybe my counter's wrong. I counted 7 or 8 different names voted for at this round table. I'm like, this is a mess.
Yeah, it was definitely a mess.
No unification at all. 3-way tie. We end up getting Carolyn as the deciding vote for Wells. But again, Carolyn, nobody's suspecting Carolyn. Nobody's like, Carolyn eliminated Wells.
No.
So, and this is when she was legit crying, Mary.
Right. Okay.
So she knows she was the reason Wells, who did nothing wrong, is out of this game.
Right. And that's hard for her. I think the responsibility of that. But at the same time, like, I think it was just all the emotional drama of the table. Like, it's draining. It's draining to me. And I'm sure it's draining to her just to hear people like constantly arguing and accusing with and she knows the reality, and to hear Bob and Danielle just randomly throwing accusations out. It's just like, I don't know. I would be so frustrated. I would be crying. If
people didn't get time at night to sleep by themselves in a hotel room, this game would be like, sure, Survivor's draining, Big Brother's draining because you're with these people 24/7 no matter what in those games. But in those games, people aren't just talking strategy and backstabbing each other and who they're accusing 24/7. Like they do things outside of that.
Right.
And on this show, I feel like the whole time they're filming, you're talking game. And I bet you that's exhausting.
Sure. I also don't, I think because they get a break from each other, it is almost worse because it's like, oh, well, at least I get to go back to my room. So it's almost like, because you're not forced to be with that person all the time. You can't like, if you're with them 24/7, you're going to tread carefully. I think you're going to be like more careful because you're going to have to live with them after you blow up. And sometimes that's true. And I'm not saying people never blow up on Survivor. I'm just saying it might inhibit you a little bit more knowing you have to go back to camp with this person or you still have to be with this person. Versus
there's no
here
jury in this game, so it's not like you got to convince people to vote for you.
Right.
Right.
Versus here, you can blow up at somebody and then you get to go back to your hotel room and chill out. You know what I mean? Like
you're saying avoid consequences.
There's less consequences. Yes.
I think there's less consequence just from the fact that they get banished and then they don't vote for a winner.
Yeah.
Like that.
Well,
so
that too.
In reality, you can burn. And this is where I think Bob, well, I don't think Bob's winning, but I think Bob has a lot of sway here because he has a lot of social capital built up, clearly, as people defend him constantly, that he can burn people and it not come back to bite him for a while. At some point, people are going to be like, it has to be Bob, right? Like, Efron might have been onto something because I feel like Efron's going to be gone before this happens. But Efron's just planted the seed.
It's coming up soon. Yeah.
So just throwing that out there. I think out of the Traitors group, I think Bob has the most power, but I feel like he might squander it of the 4.
He's a loose cannon. Yeah. Are you ready to go on to the turret for this episode?
Hang on.
Well, I was just going to talk about the dynamics between the Traitors.
Well, hold on.
Okay.
All right. So we have the shields handed out. Oh, sorry. Right. No, I don't know why my shield, because that's when it was revealed. The shield thing's so much later. Okay. So we jump to episode 3. We've now done 2 episodes. We get to the Traitors turret, Mary. Tell me all about it.
Okay. So this is when we reveal that Rob's also a traitor and is up there with them.
Nobody's happy.
But before Rob's even there, Bob and Danielle are like, oh, we have to do another housewife, or I forget, maybe Bob even brought up Dylan's name, whatever.
No, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Rob comes in and they're all surprised, but it's clearly like, man, I didn't want Rob here. So then they reveal, Rob says Tony has a shield, and I think Jeremy has a shield. Danielle says, I know Dylan has a shield. So, those people are out. And then Bob's like, let's get Ian out. And Rob says, no. And Danielle's like, no, maybe we shouldn't do another housewife after Rob says no. And Karen's like, no, absolutely not another housewife. And Bob says, nope, it's a good idea and I'm not budging. And it's just like, what the crap? You're saying no to like one of the best strategic players ever. And it's just so dumb. And so then they're all fighting in the turret.
It's amazing.
And Rob's like, okay, well, let's just calm down. Let's like look at this logically. Do we want to create chaos? Do we want to
have a directed narrative?
Yes. Let's have some logic here. But they end up still taking out Ian
because Bob is unwilling to move.
Right. And so Rob does the right thing here probably in backing down because there's no point in just standing up there arguing all night. Like
it's the second murder of the season.
Right. It's the second murder. And
in a bad way.
If Bob wants to just completely ruin his game as a traitor, I'd be like, go for it. Yeah. You want to be so obvious, go for it.
For context, in season 1, those 3 were unified. They're like, they all agreed constantly. Season 2, it was a bit more of let's let Dan do it, but Dan wasn't bulldozing. It was more of like, let's let Dan do stupid things.
Right. And also Dan wasn't being that obvious. I think it was a little bit more random. He was never just like, oh, so-and-so was mad at me or so-and-so said my name. So
once I guess like episodes 3 or 4, I forgot when it was, Dan started doing like, he did like one super obvious target and that blew up his whole game.
Sure.
On top of other things. But
sure. I'm not saying he didn't ever mess up.
Contextually, this is the most chaotic of the 3 traitorous groups, and it's gonna go bad.
Right.
It has to. I'm actually looking forward to like season 1. I was like looking forward to Sri just slaughtering like the whole time. Season 2, I was like maybe Dan's right, but I'm really rooting for Parvati, and I liked Phaedra for a while, and then this season I'm like I don't know if I really like anyone in this turret. I mean I like Boston Rob historically, but I'm like I think Carolyn's the best of the 4 in this turret.
Yes.
And if Carolyn can keep herself in check, I think she could survive because these other 3 have got to go.
Yes.
Carolyn cannot win this game with Rob, Bob the drag queen, and Danielle in this turret.
Right.
They got to go.
Yep.
There's a lot of people that got to go.
Too much.
She needs those 3 to go and then to bring in people who are calm. You need calmness in the turret. You do not want egos and power and so people with tons of social capital. You don't need all this. Well, you need them gone.
That's the problem. There's like, who else in the cast would you put besides Jeremy? Like, who else is actually really calm and would do a good job?
Quite a few people. Actually, I thought Derek and Wes, when they came in the game, like I didn't, again, know nothing about them. I've never seen them, but like they seem very calm. Yeah. I'm not saying there aren't other calm people, but immediately my first impression of both of them was like, they're pretty calm, actually.
Yeah.
Rob is calm. You just can't win with Rob.
Yeah. No, Rob is calm. And he's a good player.
I don't think you can win with Derek either. I think Derek would cut your throat.
Yeah.
But
so would Wes.
at this point, I feel like better choice than the 3 other nut bags. Carolyn. I think Carolyn is not the nut bag. The other 3 are the nut bags.
Yeah.
And sure, Rob is not currently a nut bag because he hasn't had time yet. Give Rob another episode or 2. He'll be a nut bag. Rob will start pushing his will in everything. In everything, he'll push his will. Which will be chaos with Danielle and Bob the drag queen pushing their will and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's gonna be crazy.
Go Carolyn.
Yeah.
Can't believe I'm rooting for Carolyn over everybody, but go Carolyn.
Yeah. I've been impressed with her in these first 3 episodes.
Rob doesn't like any of these people though.
No.
Boss Rob was like, if Boss Rob could be the only person turret, that would be ideal.
Oh yeah. He'd love that. So at breakfast the next day, again, Danielle's just like overreacting. She's like, I'm shaking. I'm just shaking. I was just so scared of being murdered last night. Can you guys tell I'm shaking?
Turret real quick because I had another note.
Oh, sorry.
You're right. You said Brittany was brought multiple times. This is another time where we're in the turret and she's like, no, it cannot be Brittany. It cannot be Brittany.
Yes, because they're going to blame me.
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think anybody else here has seen that season or cares.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta be frank.
Right.
Maybe Derek now, because
Right.
Derek I feel like would have to. He was a Big Brother player, but
And she does this again at this breakfast.
Yeah.
She says out loud to a bunch of people there, I think it's going to be Brittany, because if it's Brittany, then somebody's clearly framing me. And it's just like, nobody cares.
he's overdoing it.
Yes.
Chill out, Danielle.
And it's cut to a confessional. Like she does that. I'm shaking about being murdered. Cut to a confessional of her saying, I'm so good at acting. And then cut to Rob, like almost rolling his eyes and looking at her. And it's just, and then Rob saying,
Rob's like,
she needs to shut up. She needs to stop talking. She should not talk at breakfast.
This reminds me of Cody in season 1 when Cody would go to breakfast. Or no, Christian. Sorry, not Cody as well. Christian would go to breakfast and be like way over the top. And Cerie's like, what is this guy doing?
Yeah. And I'm sure as a trader, you're more sensitive to that. But at the same time, it's just like, this is too much. This is when you really do need to try and suss out trader behavior, because round table and breakfast are your 2 opportunities to see everybody interacting together at the same time.
In the same context.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the little conversations you have here and there, I don't think they're that helpful. It's really when you see them overreacting at breakfast about whatever it is, and then also who they're accusing at round table. But yeah, it's just too much. And then for a 3rd time, she's like, I bet it's a housewife. I bet a housewife is a traitor.
I was going to say they're also all together at challenges, but this season so far, there's been no like, you did this because you're a traitor. Whereas in the first 2 seasons, there was a bit of that talk during challenges. I think people realize that the traitors have literally zero. I mean, there was that in episode 1 with like the shields, I guess, but it doesn't seem to be as big a factor through challenge 2 and 3 of, are the traitors doing something? Because it's not the mole.
Right.
There's no reason to sabotage or anything like that
right.
for the traitors. So anyways, Danielle's overdoing it, but I still think, and people have, who has pinpointed Danielle? Jeremy. Jeremy's pinpointed Danielle.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, does Jeremy have more capital to pull to get Danielle out than Efron does to get Bob the drag queen? I think Jeremy has a better overall way of getting Danielle.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Danielle is so powerful in the castle. Whereas I think Bob the drag queen, like it's David facing Goliath.
Right.
Bob's Goliath in this case.
Yeah, I agree. I think that everyone likes Efron at this point. Like there were several people that came up to him after the round table in episode 3 and were like, hey, we want to help you. You just got to get better kind of thing. Like they want to help him. I think they do agree with him.
Yeah.
Jeremy's definitely been more quiet throughout, and we haven't really seen him just like really locking with anyone except Tony and Carolyn.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, but he is definitely playing smarter than Efron at this point, as far as like, you don't want to be that person that's just throwing loud accusations out there and then nothing happening.
I gotta say, I think where Bob's screwing up so far, and this is just one man's opinion, I think the people that are being murdered are people that would probably back up Bob the drag queen. Yeah. I know there's also Bob Harper. We're going to be very clear when we talk about 2 Bobs. It's a little confusing. Yes. Bob's drag queen. Yes. I think that because Ion gets murdered here,
mm-hmm.
and we had Dorinda murdered. I bet you those are 2 people. I don't recall them once saying anything bad about Bob the drag queen. Probably 2 people who would have backed him up.
Right.
And I think he's eliminating his own help.
Mm-hmm. And he said it was because to cause chaos, because who would suspect Ion, or who would want Ion out? And it's true, because she doesn't even know what she's doing. Basically, she's like
a real housewife of Dubai.
Yes, she was crying because Wells got eliminated, and Wells was the one that was kind of teaching her how to play the game, she said. So yeah, it's just clearly not someone you need to get rid of. Somebody who's not really playing the game. So
there's chaos, and then there's just like, but this chaos also has a negative point for you. Yeah. Like you need chaos that doesn't have any negativity for you. And in this case, like chaos and it's negative, right. I feel like, for this group of, or at least the ones leading the charging. Because Carolyn, I don't think it's negative for Carolyn, but it's negative for Bob especially.
Well, and as soon as they reveal it's Ian, we cut back to the turret where the Traitors meeting, to hear Bob say, you can't get cocky in this room. And then Rob riding out Ian's dame. And
Boston
it's just
Rob, cocky. Bob the drag queen so far seems to be cocky. Danielle, cocky.
Yes.
Carolyn's the least cocky of the four.
Exactly. Crazy.
So Jeremy pinpoints Danielle as a traitor. He also pinpoints somebody else, but I didn't write them down because I know they're not a traitor. I forget who.
He's pretty convinced at it being Danielle. You're right. I think he did have somebody else, but I forget who it is. I didn't write it down. So it's probably not a traitor.
When I'm writing notes for 3 episodes, I'm just like, okay, I got to be a little picky about what I write down. So anyways, Tony's name is out there due to Ian. And I got to be frank with you. I don't recall anything. And I'm not saying there wasn't.
Right.
I just don't recall anything like was like, if Tony was traitor, why would he want Ian out again?
This I didn't remember. There must have been something in episode 2 that I also missed because it seemed innocuous.
Right.
But yeah, Tony said at breakfast when there was 3 people left and Ian was one of them, he said, I hope it's not Ian because people will think it's me. And I was like, what? Why? Yeah. I don't remember why.
You and I just missed
we must have missed something.
I'm just like, I was also like, why? Anyways, I think Tony's name is out there just because he's Tony.
Yes.
The same reason Boston Rob's name was out there because he's just Boston Rob.
Right. Somebody was like, he won Survivor 3 times. And I'm just like, okay, whatever.
Every season, people have misinformation about Survivor.
Yeah.
Every season, people have misinformation about Survivor. Okay. So Efron pinpoints Bob the Drag Queen and Robyn. For some reason, I wrote the wrong one for this one. Robyn was his wrong choice as a traitor, and he says it to Boston Rob.
Yes.
Here's the thing. I could see Boston Rob, and maybe this goes for Bob the Drag Queen Danielle as well. I could see someone approaching one of these 3 players, saying somebody else who is a traitor, and them go. I mean, also Bob, I guess, would say he's never eliminated Danielle for nothing. So somebody would have to go to Bob the Drag Queen and be like, I think it's Boston Rob. And Bob the Drag Queen would be like, yep, let's put all of our money on getting Boston Rob out at a round table. I could also see somebody going to Boston Rob being like, I think it's Danielle or Bob the Drag Queen, or even Carolyn. I don't think Boston Rob cares. And then he'd be like, you know what? That's good. Let's do that. I could see these traitors turning on each other very easily come a round table.
Yes.
And I wouldn't be surprised if we go into episode 4 or 5 next week or in 2 weeks and we see traitors going along with a plan that eliminates another traitor and they don't think twice about it. There's like, yep, that sounds good to me.
Well, Rob had a confessional right after that scene saying, I don't want to have to choose between a faithful and a traitor, at least this early in the game. So yeah, he's clearly ready to do that. I think all of them would be ready to do that. You do want to wait maybe a little bit longer, get a few more faithful out. But at the same time, it's just like Survivor. We talk about it. If somebody comes up to you with a name, you never get defensive and say, oh no, it's not that person. Yeah. Like never. You're like, oh, why do you think that? Oh, that's a good reason or whatever. You like act interested and you talk to them. You're agreeable.
Even if you don't agree, you at least sound interested and sound like their idea is valid.
Yes.
You want to validate them. Even if you don't agree, you don't have to lie to them and be like, I agree, let's get this person. You just want to validate them and think that their idea is a good one, an interesting idea. It's something that maybe you hadn't even thought of before, but you really like what they're thinking.
Because the more you let people talk to you, the more you're perceived as being agreeable, that's how you get social capital. Like people will continue to come tell you their ideas and you want as much information as you can.
Right. So that's how you build it in the game because obviously some of these people have it coming in the game. Some of them are in a negative debt coming into the game. So within the game, this is how you build it within the game. So I do want to throw out there that I anticipate next week. I don't think it'll happen, but I think the seeds will be planted for a traitor to turn on a traitor. And I do think that if one of these 4 are eliminated, they're not replacing them.
Not yet.
No, I think we'll just go down to 3.
Yes, as it should be.
And if we get down below 3, then they'll start replenishing the traitors, which I'm still not a big fan of.
Yeah, I'm not.
I still think we shouldn't replenish unless we go below 2, but whatever. So Mary, challenge. Money Shield challenge.
Oh, yeah. So in our final mission of this premiere episode, they're at a fun house out in the middle of a field. So you have to divide into pairs. Each pair has a yellow balloon, which represents, I forget how much money. We'll say like $500 or something. Then they have to go through the madhouse. And all it is I think there are 5 levels, and each level there are 4 doors. And you have to pick a door.
That's the thing.
Well, there was...
So we're down from 21. We've voted off 1, killed 2. We're down to 18, so we have 9 teams.
No, but then you added 3.
No, I'm saying from 21 people, which is the total amount with Boston Robyn.
No,
2 people
there's 23 total.
23?
Yes, 23 for this,
gosh.
22 for season 2, and 21 or 20.
So we've eliminated 3, so we're down to 20, means we have 10 teams.
Yeah, 10 teams. So there's 10 teams, and again, 4 or 5 levels. Either way, it should be accurate. The catch with this one is, of course, there's 4 doors. Only one of them is the door that will get you through to the next level. And you have to explain which door you're picking to the groups outside so they know which one you're going through. The pair to make it through, the first pair to make it through with a balloon would get shields. So clear, this doesn't seem that difficult. The only thing I can think of is they told them they weren't allowed to say door 1, door 2, door 3, door 4.
There had to have been.
It had to have been because they kept trying to describe the pattern on the door. Oh, we're going through the door with the yellow and the blue triangles next to each other. And it's just it was so dumb. They took 5 teams to get through the first level that had 4 doors. It was so frustrating. But anyways, and there was some drama there about who's going to go first, because clearly the first team's not going to make it. And Bob H calls out Tony and is like, you need to step up and do it, and just step up and be a man and do it. And Tony's like, what?
Again, is this Bob Harper?
Yeah, Bob Harper.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Because Bob the Drag Queen, I think in this challenge does it again to somebody.
He just kind of
calls out the women being sacrificed.
No, he just backs Bob up. He said all the people, yes, because Bob H said, I'll go first. And then Bob Drag Queen said, the people who are volunteering before are volunteering again. We need new people to volunteer.
Right.
So that's when Bob H went over to Tony and was like, you need to go. So
again, Bob the Drag Queen presenting the problem and not solving the problem.
Right.
Because
well,
he was not one of the first. No, he had to be dragged onto that platform in that first challenge. So again, this is the second time that I remember where he presents the problem, does not present the solution.
So Tony and Nikki go first. Of course, they don't make it. Nobody makes it. Nobody makes it through the funhouse. No money was won.
Should we talk about this first row? Because we lose 4 teams in what at worst should have been 3.
Yes. There were 4 teams because one team couldn't remember which doors had already been picked.
The 4th team could not remember the 3 doors. So they go through a door and they get murdered as well.
But
insanity. In
their defense, the first 3 teams, were really bad at explaining which door. And again, they had to have been told, you can't say door number 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
It had to be, because it's just ridiculous. So and all the doors were a similar theme of colored triangles.
Right.
But if you take just a few seconds and calm down, I don't even think there was a time limit in this one. So just think about it and talk out loud, because Tony was first, and that's another reason you don't want Tony going first, because Tony was just oh, the red door, the blue door, the door with the dots and the triangles, and it's just nobody understands what he's saying.
He was going through his whole thought process out loud. And I think that's what confused people. Though to be fair, nobody entered his door again. So he must have done a good enough job on saying which door it was when he finally went through it, because it wasn't his door that was repeated. It was somebody else's door.
Right. Either way, it was just kind of frustrating. One of those things that's was there any point to that?
There was a restriction that didn't need to be there.
Right. Yeah. I think the restriction didn't need to be there at all.
No. And I wish they had just told us too that you can't say a number.
Right. Because it makes them look so dumb. Because that's obvious.
It makes us feel frustrated at them for looking dumb.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're all in on the same page on what the rules are, we can understand why. Yeah. And therefore we can understand their frustration. But I can't understand their frustration if I'm in the dark also on what seems to be a very basic rule of this challenge, which is you can't say a door number.
Right. And that's one of our complaints about Traitors, I think, is that they don't explain rules well.
No.
What are the rules of the game? Right. They're not explained.
Too often. And they pretend like they're sleeping upstairs and they're not. They're sleeping in a hotel by an airport.
Yeah.
Right. But they pretend they go upstairs to go to sleep. And it's I believe, do not quote me on this, the UK version, which is filmed in the same location, is more clear about these things. Same location, same production team. But again, I have not seen the UK version. I do not know. And that could be misinformation. I know in other versions, they're more clear on the fact they're not really sleeping on the castle. So I don't know why the US version does all this pretending. Just be straight with us. We're with you. Just be straight. But we're 3 seasons in. I don't think it's changing it.
Takes away from the ambience.
The ambiance of the Traitors.
Yeah.
Alan, though, as always, on top of his game, with his murderous talks.
Yeah, very dramatic.
Very dramatic.
Yeah.
So basically, long story short, nobody gets a shield, no money's added, a big nothing burger of a challenge at the end of the day. And it again makes me go, the money should just be guaranteed.
Yeah.
Shields should be what this all about, because it's all anybody really actually
That's all
cares
anybody
about.
cares about. Yeah.
Nobody cares about the money part. The money part, inconsequential.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. We get in the car, and Jeremy says in the car to Bob the drag queen. I wrote, Jeremy says in the car to Bob the drag queen by Jeremy. What does that mean, Wesley?
He brings up that Danielle is a traitor with Bob the drag queen in the car and a couple other people.
What was I writing?
I don't know.
Am I drunk?
He said, and they were like, why? And he said, because I don't believe her acting. Like her acting at breakfast is over the top. So Bob the drag queen immediately goes and tells Danielle.
Yeah.
And also Carolyn shows up, and Carolyn's like, yeah, Jeremy told me your name too. And Danielle's, but why? But why?
I'm playing this game so perfectly.
Right. I'm acting so well. And then, well, he has to go then. And then Jeremy also tells Bob the drag queen that Dylan has brought up his name. And so this is where I got really frustrated with him. Bob's like, well, he can't do that. I'm going to go talk to him. And he goes to complain with a group of girls. Like, he doesn't go to talk to Dylan at all.
Same group of girls he's probably going to murder later.
Probably.
Right.
And he's I can't believe that Dylan's bringing my name up. What an idiot. And I'm going to shut his mouth up with a lot of more expletives. And it's just like, come on.
Also, Bob the drag queen is murdering women, and also in the challenges presenting, it's so unfair that the women are doing. It's like, you're murdering
Only
them.
women have been murdered so far. So, yeah.
Well, we'll see if that changes with this casket thing.
Right. I know Jeremy, like, it seems bad on Jeremy for telling people about the things going on. And even Tony's like, Jeremy, what you doing telling Bob that?
Bro, what are you doing?
Yeah.
That's what Tony says.
But like at some point you do, like, this is his way of playing, I think, is by giving out the information that he has in order to like build up alliances. And then obviously you want people on your side if you're going to try and get out Danielle. But it's still it looks pretty weak for Jeremy.
For me with Jeremy, it was saying it in the car where there's like too many people you can't account for. You can't look at everybody's faces to their reaction to you saying this.
Sure.
I feel like Jeremy is better than that from what I've seen on Survivor. This is something you want to say in one-on-one conversation. Do you want to be able to read their face? What's their reaction when I say this?
Mm-hmm.
You know, do I say it and they look surprised? Do I say it and they look mad? Like, but you say it to a group of people in a car, you can't see everybody's faces.
Right.
You don't know the reactions of everybody. It's too much to read at once, 5 people's faces at once. That's too much.
True.
By the way, clown car. Some of these cars are like clown cars. Like some people are not sitting in seats. If I remember, like somebody's like sitting up against the door because there's too many people in the vehicle. Maybe that was last episode.
They have seats. Tony was sitting in the back in like I forget what it's called, but it's like a side little seat that pulls down.
Maybe it's
which is crazy because Tony's like the biggest guy there, but maybe that was why he had more leg room. I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, it's they're not quite like
Tony's
standard.
a pretty flexible guy actually. In terms of he's not. You notice even in Kai Guy on his first season where people remember how crazy he was, but a lot of times Tony's like calming down fights and like going with the flow with a lot when it comes to social interactions. When it comes to strategy, Tony wanted his way.
Mm-hmm.
But social interactions, Tony just went with the flow and tried to calm people down constantly. And that's actually, I think, why he's one of the best winners of Survivor, if not the best.
Right.
Because he just is so, like, he's not, people are trying comparing Russell Hantz, not to get too off topic, but Russell Hantz had to be his way no matter what and everything. And he wasn't really social. And Tony was like, actually, you're actually really chill.
Right.
And you see it here when we go to the round table because flipping A, we're about to accuse Tony.
Yep.
And it doesn't feel like Tony's earned this. It feels like Tony's has a reputation that precedes him.
Right. And so this round table starts with Dylan accusing Bob, drag queen, and
the correct accusation.
And Robyn, I think. He brought up both names. Right. Yeah. He brought up both names. And poor guy, he got like kind of decimated.
He got decimated.
Just because Bob got so angry. I was just like, well, where's your proof? Where's your proof? Where's your proof?
You presented a puzzle and you want us to solve it.
Yes. And he tries to give his proof. And then Bob's like, but that's not proof. You have no proof. And it's just like your word against mine kind of thing.
Like, well, what kind of proof are we looking
for?
Like, you can't catch anybody in the act of murdering, which would make the show even crazier, by the way. If you had to, like, every time somebody got murdered, it was in the act of, they had to, like, I don't know, mark them with red on their shoulder or something. I don't know.
That would be kind of cool.
That'd be wild.
Right. But so poor Dylan kind of fizzles out a little bit. And
we say poor because we know he's right.
Right, exactly.
If he was wrong, I'd be like, Dylan's dumb.
Yes. And then I think Bob H brought up Tony's name first. I
Yeah.
don't remember. But then a bunch of people just piled. It was just dogpile on Tony. And about towards the end of it, I would say, Boston Rob says, yeah, Tony, I gave you the shield and then you never once talked to me. And I thought that was really weird. Just another, if Boston Rob's saying this, like totally.
Do you think he was the final nail in the coffin? Because I feel like Boston Rob could have kept his mouth shut.
I think he could have.
And Tony was done. I mean, the momentum clearly was there.
Yes.
There was no really second option thrown out there. Heck, even Jeremy threw a hinky vote on Tom, who looks like a vampire, by the way.
Because he doesn't want to vote for Tony. Right. But,
right. Yeah. But not because there's a second option, just because he doesn't want to vote for Tony.
Right.
Right.
But so this is what I thought was interesting. Yeah. Boston Rob didn't probably have to say anything. I think he just wanted to really make sure that Bob wasn't going to get any votes. So yeah, here again, this is where Bob the Drag Queen this wasn't smart, I don't think. He randomly again throws a vote on Ivar, Lord Ivar, saying, I didn't really have time to bring up my accusations, but I'm still pretty sure you're either a traitor or a faithful who just doesn't care and you need to go.
Here's the thing. I don't think the show cuts them off. I think the show realizes there's a natural ending point to the conversation and that's like time to vote. It's not, I bet you if they want to talk for another 15 minutes that they could have.
Right.
So it's kind of weird to hear somebody say, I didn't really have time to.
Right.
Did.
Well, there was a bunch of crap going around. I'm sure at some point you just get tired. But yes, again, it's just like another little lie of why bring up all this stuff about Dylan.
Right.
You know,
and not vote for Dylan.
And not vote for Dylan or not vote for Tony, which clearly the whole group is going for. It's just like putting himself out there again in a bad way. Yeah. It's standing out.
This is a bad group of traitors. Let's put it this way.
He does come up to Dylan after the round table and was like, tried to patch things over and kind of compliment him and whatever, smoothing. And it sure was an okay move. If you're going to play a very vocal game, then yeah, you have to do stuff like this where then you go apologize to the person or try and fix it. So that was a good move, I guess, on his part to try and repair damage.
Yeah.
But Dylan doesn't believe it. It doesn't stick. So it, kind of pointless. But did you have anything else before the next twist?
Well, we vote off Tony. Tony gets voted off.
Oh.
And by the way, the whole time Tony's defending himself, I see how Tony gets out of things on Survivor. When people like the way he said, and of course we know he's being legit and he's not lying, but let's say Tony was legit and not lying. The way he defends himself, like, do you really think this?
Yeah.
Like the way he like presents it is like very much like, you know what, Tony, you sound so sincere, and he is being sincere, of course, but like, I don't know. Like, I think if I was at the round table and heard Tony, I'd be like, shoot, I don't think Tony's a traitor. I don't think Tony's a traitor anymore. Cause I definitely would have thought it going into the season. And I'd be like, crap, like too much momentum to turn this around now. That's why I feel like, that's how I felt. If I didn't know who the traitors were, I would have been like, crap, it's too late. Tony's done for and he's not even a traitor.
Right.
And but if I wasn't sure of who else was a traitor, I would just have to let it happen, which sucks. Yeah, Tony goes. Very unfortunate that he's the first to go of the 4 survivors. I would have been fine with Boston Rob going first.
Me too, actually.
Yeah. Really, out of the 4, that's the one I would have been like, that's fine if he goes first. He had 2 episodes of immunity, so yeah, kind of helped. Tony calls Rob a sellout. I'm not sure the context because, again, nothing on the show indicates this. So what does that mean? Was Tony also offered the Boston Rob role of 2 episodes of immunity? But Tony, was there some sort of like sellout deal he's referring to outside of the game?
I think it's just more, I don't know. I think he was just hurt because he brought up him not talking to him about the shield.
Yeah.
And maybe they didn't have an opportunity because a lot had happened between those 2 times. I don't know. You're right. The show was not clear about why he said that, but it was clearly he was just really hurt by Rob turning on him. And I think Rob cares more about the game than his personal connections. Right. Clearly, all the time.
I want to throw this out there. This is like a life thing. Relationships are like a pendulum. They swing both ways. So sure, Tony didn't swing the pendulum towards Rob, but Rob's presenting, I gave him a shield, therefore he owed me a relationship. Like, I guess the pendulum swung a little bit towards Tony and Tony should have swung it back, but at the same time, let's be real.
Right.
Come on.
Yeah.
That's not, like, Rob's not being legit.
Right. Well, and there's also just like, I think you don't want to be seen too often with the people you want to work with. Like, I don't know. Tony and Rob shouldn't be seen talking together often. No,
they need to interact with other people they don't really know.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So relationships work both ways. Pendulum swings both ways. Would Tony have not got eliminated if he talked to Rob once? No.
Yeah.
He would still be out of the game. So like, we can't sit here and be like, Tony screwed up by winning Survivor twice.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's basically it.
That's really it.
Mhm.
Same reason Game Changers he gets voted off, because he won Survivor.
Right.
Like it's just the way it is. So Tony will be on Australian Survivor, by the way. For those also wondering, Parvati is currently on Deal or No Deal Island, season 2, on Peacock as well. Just throw it out there and I think she's on Australian Survivor as well, along with Suri. So there is more to look forward to from Tony and Parvati if you like these two people, and Suri, of course.
Nice.
I think Suri's on Australian Survivor. I don't know when that season's going to air though. So sometime in the future. Okay, Tony's eliminated. We then get, as you said, people going up to Efron like, and then Bob Drag Queen goes up to Efron. And he's like, "You're accusing me?" And Efron's like, "No, dude, you're convinced me now that you're not."
Yeah.
And then we get to the confession. He's like, "No, Bob's definitely a traitor. I'm not convinced."
Yeah.
But yeah, he's kind of like, he realizes like the powerhouse that stands before him of Bob the Drag Queen. He's like, I do not have the power to do anything about this right now.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we ended with that. We then learn in the turret, Mary, what do we learn?
Well,
no, we didn't get
no,
the
it
turret.
wasn't in the turret. The traitors get a note when they go to do their confessionals that they must do a plain sight murder in the castle before bedtime. And they have to go to the castle wine cellar and they have to write 3 names on a list. Those 3 people will be put in a coffin, and then the traitor will go pick one of those 3 to die.
Is the wine cellar a new room, or is it just a rework of that room from last season that was like a secret?
Yeah, it's just the same room.
Okay. Because I don't think anybody else, like, if anybody else knew about that, could they just walk in there as well?
Yeah, it's the first episode. Everyone in there, oh, look, it's the wine cellar.
okay.
Oh, look, it's the room. Yeah.
So other people could have walked in on them.
Yeah, everybody knows it's there.
So bad.
Yeah.
In a funny way, but so bad.
Well, the way it was edited, at least 3 people hear somebody in there. I don't know if Robyn and Derek actually heard anything, but it was clear Gabby heard something because she walked in and out and then waited in the hallway, and it was
Danielle's
very
like,
obvious.
Bob, your voice is so loud.
Yes.
And that's what Mary says to me all the time. By the way, I'll be whispering Mary. She's like, Wesley, your voice is so loud.
You're still so loud.
You're so loud.
I do like this because this is one of the things where it's like you were saying, it's almost like they have, well, of course, murder in place night. That's what the twist is called. But it's definitely more dramatic because they have to do it where other people can hear. They have to take their time.
Right.
I don't know if it's smart to meet in the cellar room. I don't know how you would do this better though. Just like try and get them one-on-one, be like, hey, I'm talking to you, Rob. You go tell Bob that this is what I want. I don't know. But again, Danielle and Bob in this scene are just so dumb because they're like, we should put Carolyn in.
They're not willing to work with each other.
And we need to put Jeremy in because they put Danielle's name out there. And Rob's like, no, we need to do somebody completely random.
Yeah,
that's how you get the heat off of you. You don't pick the people who are accusing you. And then Dave's like, okay, so let's do Jeremy. And let's put Carolyn in the coffin. And Rob's like, no, you don't put a traitor in the coffin because then that's obvious that there's a traitor in the coffin.
Last season, well, by the way, Rebecca and I will be podcast next week. I didn't even mention that. We're going to trade off every other week. It'll be Mary and I for the odd numbered episodes, Rebecca for the even numbered episodes. Long story short. So we'll talk about this next week with Rebecca. But yes, last season, they did a thing where like they were in caskets, but like the show picked who was in the caskets at the end. Like they murdered one person in plain sight, I believe. That was the plain sight murder. This season, I feel like they made it better because the traitors get complete control over who's in the casket, and I'm with them. Do not put a traitor in the casket. These 3 people will be looked at more harshly. Yes. Well, at least when Rob said that. These people will be looked at more harshly. So if you were to put 2 traitors in a casket and 1 non-traitor, or if you put 1 traitor in the casket and 2, it doesn't matter. These 3 people are going to be honed in on by everybody. They're going to be staring them down.
Right. And even after Rob says that, when Carolyn walks in the room because she was late, Danielle's like, do you want to go in the coffin? And she said, no. And Rob said, no. Okay, never mind. And it's just like, they're so not unflexible, whatever the word is.
They're all inflexible.
Yeah. It's just like, I'm sure Jeremy's probably going to go in there and he's probably going to die and it's going to suck. But I'm just hoping that will clearly show it's Danielle and Bob because they're really frustrating me. They're such bad traitors.
So far, I have not been impressed. Again, Carolyn hasn't had the choice to do anything. So I've only been impressed by the fact that she doesn't have a target on her back. She's kept it off her back.
Yeah.
But like none of the traitors have impressed me, period, as a traitor.
Right.
So sure, Rob's coming in saying some like truth. But again, I know Rob's just doing this now because he needs to get his power up, basically.
Right.
Lack of a better word. And then once he gets his power up, Rob will start making dumb mistakes as well. So don't get me wrong. Boston Rob's at the moment seems like the better choice, but like, it's just because everyone else is such a mess.
Right. Yeah, true.
Let's give it some time. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, we have set ourselves up for chaos. Rebecca and I will podcast next week about that. So Mary, we're going to do our top 3. We're not going to get super in depth on winner analysis. This is more just gut feeling, top 3. Who do you think's going to win after 3 episodes? And then we'll answer some people's questions. So Mary,
I think
who's
that
your number 3?
Number 3, and this is difficult because I don't know. I feel like this is always so hard to pick. But I think Jeremy's doing a pretty good job. I don't think if Bob and Danielle don't just murder him, like as far as just gameplay, he's smart. He's already on the trail of some people, but he's not being overtly loud about it like Dylan is. So he has a good chance, in my opinion. I'm just afraid he's going to get murdered fairly quickly.
Sure. I'm with you. I have Jeremy number 3, but that's more of I recognize Jeremy and I think he's playing okay. I do worry that the Traitors group will be dumb and murder him when he's openly accusing.
Right.
Same with Efron. If Efron got murdered and it's like, yeah, well, okay, the open accusations in a way should actually keep them safe. If anything, they should be voted off. That would look better. But right. So I put Jeremy at number 3, but it's for lack of. I don't really feel strongly about anybody as number 3 at the moment. So I'm kind of, who do I feel okay about?
Right.
Who's your number 2?
So number 2, this might be a little controversial, but I have Robyn.
Okay.
Again, she's been getting some screen time. I don't think she's right about anything. Like she keeps defending Bob, but that's a good place to be as a faithful defending a traitor because you're not going to get murdered, hopefully. I know that Danielle probably doesn't really like her and keeps accusing her, but I don't know. I get this feeling that she might make it farther simply because she's being loud. And if people are, if smart decisions are starting to be made, she should be left alone. And she might be able to figure out some later, but I don't know. It's just kind of like a gut feeling I got about her.
We need voting to get smarter because the Traitors are not getting smarter.
Yes.
My number 2 is Wes. Is it because it's my name? Maybe. Is it because I really liked his nonchalant, I don't really care who goes attitude? I actually really like that this early in the game. Yeah. That is not a good long-term, like you can't do it all 12 episodes or how many episodes there are.
Right.
But I really like it in episode 2, 3, 4. Great. Don't give a rip who goes. As long as it ain't me. It's the Sandra Survivor approach. As long as it ain't me, I don't care.
True.
So I really like, and I don't think anybody's accusing him. I don't think anybody's on his trail. So who's your number 1?
Carolyn.
Then we're on the same page. Okay.
Yeah. I think that because everyone, it's made a point of showing several people be like, Carolyn, yeah, there's no way she's a murderer. And this early, it's really good for her. She's not trying to join in the power struggle of the other traitors. So she's keeping a low profile. She's doing a great job. Like she doesn't necessarily have to act, which is nice. I think she just naturally has.
Herself.
She's just being herself, and everyone's like, "Oh, it's just spastic, crazy Carolyn." But she has genuine relationships, also. I think with some people. So yeah, I think that she's in a really good spot. And as we've said several times, she's super smart. And out of all the traitors, she's the one I have the highest.
Yeah. Carolyn has power, and nobody suspects her. And I don't see anybody would suspect her for quite a while. Carolyn would need to slip up, which I don't put past her. But at the same time, I think Carolyn's smart.
Right.
I think Carolyn's smart. She's just emotional. So out of the current traitor group, she's the one I feel the strongest about. She's the only one I feel like playing fine at the moment. It's because she's letting bigger, louder, more vibrant, I can't say more vibrant, bigger, louder personalities get in her way as shields. Like nobody's gonna look at Carolyn before they look at, in my opinion, Danielle, Bob the Drag Queen, and Boston Rob, especially Boston Rob, who I feel like automatically people already think that. So, all right, I would love to hear who you all have as your top 3 down in the comments. Let us know, because maybe there's somebody we're overlooking. Because again, I do not recognize half of these people.
Right.
So I might be overlooking somebody who is clear as day the winner, and I just don't know who they are, so I've ignored them. So possible. All right, Mary, you ready for questions?
Yeah.
Okay, first question is from the Rebel Dog. They said, did you hear them scream and clap when Carolyn was picked as a traitor? I guess let's rephrase this question. Were you excited to see Carolyn as a traitor?
I was excited, yes.
I think she was a good pick. I don't know if I was like, I mean, I kind of wanted Tony, but I understand that Tony was going out in this episode, traitor, no traitor.
Obvious.
So, yeah. All right, next question's from MTS. Oh, no, wrong person. Sorry. Next question from Maxwell. Why do you think Tony got so emotional towards Rob when he was eliminated?
I mean, we talked about it a little bit. There seems to be some sort of backstory there that we have not heard. I really feel like Tony felt like the survivors should stick together, and he felt betrayed by Rob. And that's all I know.
Yeah. Corey Gunter asks, why on earth did no one suggest that they label the doors 1 through 4?
Yeah.
We think that there was a rule they didn't tell us about, Corey. That's what we think. All right. Alaski says, I'm excited to see how you, meaning us, Mary, spin every action done by a woman to be wrong next episode. I said, that's a bit sexist. I think it's because last season, Phaedra and Parvati were constantly screwing the pooch, and I was rooting for Dan. But then season 1, I was all on board Cirie, and this season, I'm all on board Carolyn. I'm not sexist. Mary's like, I'm not going to disagree.
I'm not getting into that. You're not sexist. I agree with that.
All right, thank you. All right, last question's from VLKF9LY. Do you think Bob the Drag Queen will outlast Boston Rob?
No.
That's a good question.
No.
Dude, I think actually, no, I think Boston Rob goes before. I know we're sitting here seeing how messy Bob the Drag Queen is, but I think there's so much goodwill that he has in the I can almost say the house, in the castle that Boston Rob doesn't have. I see Boston Rob being voted off before Bob the Drag Queen. Do I think he's playing a better game?
Nobody has brought up Rob's name yet, though. And
yes, they have.
No, they haven't. As a traitor? No, not at all.
They just want him out because they don't like him.
Yeah.
That could be enough.
That's
so
true.
I feel like after you eliminate a few people in a row who aren't traitors, you start getting like a hunger for like, okay, I actually do need to eliminate traitors.
If you notice, Boston Rob has like a sycophant following that just wants to do whatever he says because he's so smart and brilliant.
Yeah.
Like Dylan wanted to make sure Boston Rob knew, I know it's...
Boston Rob is a cult of personality. That's what he is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that he has his own sway simply based on his strategy. And since they haven't been able to get a faithful yet, or a traitor yet, and have only been getting faithfuls, I think they're
might
like,
lean on him.
Yeah, we need you, Rob. We need you to help us get a traitor.
But then later on, they'll cut his throat.
I'm sure later, hopefully somebody will.
I don't know. I can see Boston Rob going before Bob the Drag Queen. I really could. But who's going to slip up first in the public? Bob the Drag Queen.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. At the moment, yeah. All right. Well, that is it for our premiere podcast. Again, next week, it'll be Rebecca and I. And then the week after, Mary and I, and we'll just rotate. And then I think Mary will see like episode before the finale or maybe the finale. We'll all get together, all three of us.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, thank you all for listening. We'll see you all next time.
Bye.
Bye.